Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we could be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So, like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate you. And welcome to another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and Peebush. How you fellas doing?
I'm doing well, man. We got a huge matchup, guys. I know we're talking about it all day on the podcast, but Crosstown Classic, Cubs and Sox this week, man. No one's going. They both suck. So Chicago sports kind of dry right now, man. Kind of dry. The best highlight I've seen today was their new punter out of Iowa, Torrey Taylor, putting an absolute nuke missile in practice today, man. He's going to flip the field for Caleb, Zoo. He's going to be the one to get you that over 9.5 wins, man.
Oh, the kicker that they signed?
The punter, man.
Oh, the punter. Okay. Yeah, special teams, whatever, man. I'm ready for QB1. I'm ready for QB1 and wide receiver ones, man. That's what I'm ready for.
He was out in Wrigleyville this weekend screaming, screw Green Bay, man.
Oh, I saw that. I saw he's fully embraced the Chicago culture, the Chicago rivalry. Let's see if he can back it up on the field, because that's all that really matters.
Yes, sir.
That's all that really matters.
But first, we got the finals, man. We got the finals.
Yeah, long-awaited finals. Like you said, the gentleman sweep at the Mavs, and then we have the Celtics doing what they did to the Pacers. It's kind of interesting, this matchup. I think last year with Jokic coming in and the Heat, everybody kind of, outside of the Heat fans, kind of knew how that was going to go. So.
Yep.
With this, it's a lot of people who are undecided. There's a lot of people who are interested to see how both of these, I guess you could say, dynamic wings and guards match up. So, Peebush, go ahead and start us off of who's your pick and some X factors that you're looking at.
Well, I can't start with my pick, man. I got to preface some of this, man. But, I think we can all agree that the biggest X factor for the Celtics right now, I got twofold here, but number one is Porzingis, man. Yep. I mean, we talked about this last week. I think, Sean, you mentioned soft tissue injuries. They linger. Sometimes they go away and they come back, right? We saw that with OG Anunoby, who probably pushed it a little too quickly with his hamstring, but a calf issue isn't much different, especially for a guy of his height. And what I'm interested to see is the physicality that he's able to withstand from Gafford and Derek Lively. I mean, they've really proven in this playoffs on the Mavs side that they can protect the rim and they can rebound the ball. And God knows Al Horford's going to need some help down low. He does his part. He hits his threes. He does fight for rebounds, but man, they need something a little more with Kristaps, and also it helps out Jason and Jalen on the other side of the ball, and doesn't force Derek White to be the third option, or Zoo, your favorite, Mr. 5 for 22 in the playoffs once in a while, Drew Holiday trying to carry a game. So that's what they're trying to stay away from. If he is not 100%, I think the Mavs take this series. But and it would be 6 or 7. I'm not saying sweep, gentlemen sweep. But if Porzingis is 100% healthy, I think this guarantees 7. The Celtics do obviously have home court advantage, one of the scariest home court advantages in the NBA. But this team hasn't really impressed me in the playoffs, man. You can talk about, they handled business with Cleveland. They handled business with the Heat. But we talked about this, man. They were without all their respective stars. And sadly, the Pacers actually gave them a damn good – that's the best sweep, and I said this last week. Yep. The best sweep I've ever seen from a competition side, where that series should have gone at least 6 games. Even with Halliburton's injury, they should have been 2-2 at the end of Game 4. Celtics likely would have closed it out. But still, I mean, you're talking about giving them extra rest, etc. So that was huge for Porzingis. So, I think his three-point shooting, his size, and honestly his defensive, he's not a stud and rim protector, but, he's got height. He can get rebounds if they need it. And, so that's what I'm watching on the Celtics side. As for the Mavs, man, I was looking at their playoff stats today, and it's absurd, the drop-off from Luka and Kyrie to the next guy. I mean, we've talked about P.J. Washington, Derek Jones, Derek Lively's had some nice games too. Obviously, Gafford I mentioned. But, man, I don't think they can purely rely on Luka and Kyrie, because Kyrie's going to be draped by Drew Holiday pretty much all series, and Derek White can switch on him whenever they need it. And Tatum and Brown are likely, probably more so Brown, but they're going to be guarding Luka. So you're forcing, if you're the Celtics, you are forcing the ball out of those two guys' hands, if at all possible. We know the playmakers that they are, but they have to be able to rely on PJ Washington in the corner, easy lobs to Lively, easy lobs to Gafford, and they need Derrick Jones Jr. to just be as explosive as possible. So I would say that the Mavs need more things to go right than the Celtics do, but I do think that the star power right now with Luka and Kyrie and how they're meshing as of this past series has been impeccable. Zoo. I know I gave Luka a little bit of a hard time with his efficiency, but his closing is huge. And if they can use Kyrie the first 3 quarters to shoot 50% and then let Luka close the game, I think they got this thing in the bag. So it really, for me, I'm more worried about the Celtics, but I also am more concerned with the consistency of scoring with the Mavericks, which is why, to your point, Sean, a lot of people are undecided on this one, and I really don't know which way to flip it, but I'm going to go Mavs in 7, man. I think I got to go Mavs in 7. It's Luka's time, man. It's the Don.
It is the Don, and he showed up, and we forget how young the Don is. This dude is 25 years young, and if he wins a championship, that is ahead of schedule, I would say. Yes, I would say that is overachieving for a guy at this age, because usually these guys, these superstars, win their championships from, like, I would say 26, 27 to like 30s. Like, that's where their prime is, their peak body prime, peak mental prime, and peak your team around you after getting drafted to a bad team. So usually that the trajectory is. But if he gets it right now, he is definitely ahead of schedule and should collect a couple more based on his timeline right now. But he's going to have a hell of a challenge. And you said the X factor is, it's only one man. His name's Kristaps Porzingis.
Yes, sir.
And this Boston Celtics, I feel like the Kristaps Porzingis was healthy for the entire run, they would have looked significantly better.
Absolutely.
Because Porzingis is the guy that elevates this offense from – they're not that – like, if you watch their offense, it's just not that creative. They just doesn't have that much dimension. Like, it's a lot of three-point shooting, a lot of dribble, a lot of Jason Tatum ice. So, like, it's just not that creative. But the Porzingis adds the offensive repertoire that is completely unique that Tatum and Brown just doesn't offer, because those guys are just perimeter wing guys. Drew Holiday, as you said, I'm not the biggest fan of him on the offensive side, so I'm not really scared of him. Derek White, that guy just shows up in the playoffs. So he hit some big shots, and he's one of their better playmakers, too, for a guy that was just traded for a first-round pick. This guy has been a key contributor on a championship contender. So offensively, that extra dimension, making the Mavs Mavs are a tremendous defensive team, but Porzingis is going to be able to give those guys some trouble, because they're going to force them, similar to Cat, force them to be more of a perimeter guy, very different dimension. And when Porzingis is off, they can put an Al Horford in, and instead of asking Al Horford playing 40+ minutes, because that was
unbelievable,
legit. Because the problem is, like, they can't play Luke Cornett. Like, you just cannot play Luke Cornett in a playoff game. So you're down to like Xavier Tillman. They didn't really have, like, Boston's starting 5 is very, very good. But if you look at the bench, outside of Pritchard, like, I'm a big Payne Pritchard fan. Outside of him, they don't really have another key rotation guy that you count on for 20, 25 minutes. But that guy is Al Horford.
Little like the Nuggets, if you might say, a little bit. So if they can tire him out, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I would say that. But the problem with the Mavericks, though, like you said, everything has to go perfect.
Yep.
Luka has to be an absolute superstar this series for them to even have a
triple-double.
Yeah, exactly. He got to put up the 30-point triple-double series. Kyrie Irving has to be the number 2 option. And as you said, Drew Holiday as a defender is going to give this guy tremendous trouble, because this guy's just the definition of an elite perimeter defender. And you could play Kyrie Irving one-on-one with Drew Holiday, because Drew Holiday could fight through screens. Like, he doesn't really get screened, so that's the key. If they get a screen off Drew Holiday and force him to work, okay, Kyrie could probably do some work, and you force a double team, and then you get the lobs going. Then you get the corner threes and Derrick Jones going. You get the corner threes and PJ Washington going. So the superstars have to pull what I call the Cleveland LeBron James and Kyrie Irving show.
Yep. Yes,
like, that's what they need. They need these guys to put up 30, 40 points a game, because the Boston Celtics, that starting lineup, they have guys that could defend and score 20 points, like any position.
Any one of them, even Drew.
Even Drew Holiday. Like, any 5 of those guys in the starting lineup could put up 20 points a game pretty consistent. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Kristaps averages 20 for the playoffs or for the finals. I wouldn't be surprised Drew Holiday has like average 19, 20 points this series because all these guys are extremely versatile. And on paper, the Boston Celtics are the better team. They're the better team
by far.
Vegas says so too.
Yeah, Vegas said it. Like, they give them a massive edge because they're at minus 250. Yeah. So, and a lot of people are betting the Mavericks, and it's still there. So
they're hoping for the cash out.
Exactly. So a lot of people are betting heavy money on the Boston Celtics right now. Like, obviously, I feel like a lot of people bet on them because of the Eastern Conference. So there's a lot of money on the Boston Celtics currently right now. And if you look at the starting lineup, I think they have a better starting lineup. And I feel like historically, this team was at the door, and usually, eventually, this Celtics team. With this iteration of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I definitely have them. But I've been over under like 0.5 championships. I guarantee they're going to win at least one in their run.
They should.
They should win one, especially in the Eastern Conference. They've been just dominant. Like, you win 64 games in the regular season with a 10-plus point differential. That's just domination in the regular season. And the playoffs, they only lost 2 games, regardless of competition. So they've been getting it done in the regular season, in the playoffs. They got their biggest piece back in Porzingis. I am leaning Celtics, but I will not put a single dollar on the Celtics at minus 250. That's all I got to say. Minus 250, no. I am out because I think the series, just based on Luka's greatness, can make this, as you said, a 6 or 7 game series.
Yeah. There's no EV, Zoo.
There's no EV betting on the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
And I'm putting my money on the Dallas Mavericks, baby. I'm putting on the Don, man. I'm putting on the Don, even though, based on odds, I give them probably a 35% chance of winning. That's 35-40. So I'm giving the Celtics the edge because I think they're the better roster, and they're technically the more experienced roster right now.
By far.
So it's gonna take Luka Doncic going absolute crazy. He could pull it off, but this will be his greatest achievement. This is my moment. Like, this will be his Jokic moment of last year when Jokic like, I am officially the best player in the world, and all the haters saying I never won a ring, I never made out. I got a crew now, and I won a championship pretty easily. Luka Doncic, I remember said he got the role players, man. And I remember we had this conversation a couple of months ago about who has the most pressure. And I remember that. I think you guys brought up the Boston Celtics, obviously, because they got the crew. You got the weak conference, you got the injury benefits, and you're just at the ceiling. You just got to break through. They're there. And then you got, I pretty much said Luka got more pressure because this guy is going to go down as the 10 greatest players of all time.
I was Zoo. I'm pretty sure you did you picked the Clippers, if I do remember.
I did pick it. I cashed out. Kawhi Leonard's knees, man. That's an automatic cash out.
And all I said, Zoo, was we know how it's going to end. Come on, man. Have a little realism.
Yeah, I saw Dallas Mavericks in the first round. I'm like, whew, good thing. Cashed out early because I was like, they had no chance against Luka, man. So
Luka does have pressure, but I think because of who he's facing, I think the Celtics do have higher expectations than Vegas.
The team has higher expectations, but Luka is a tier above Jason Tatum.
But there are 2 points I want to make based on what you talked about, and then Sean, sorry, I'll pass it off to you. But first one is, I know we talked about how young Luka is, and I do find that interesting. For me, with him, I think he's an anomaly in the sense that I actually consider more of his experience in years in the league over age, because he became a professional at 15.
Yeah.
I mean, he was around grown-ass men for 10 years now, right? So I think he is ahead of schedule based on the age aspect, but I think his experience level is more of a 27-year-old that we would normally see in the league, because there are also guys, you got to remember, most guys were coming out probably more at 20, 21 until we kind of got the one and dones and then the high schoolers and all that when that was still a thing. So I just wanted to make that comment. That doesn't take anything away from what he's doing, but I do think he is probably one of the most savvy young players this league has ever seen. And let's be honest, the last time we saw a guy this young making a finals
LeBron James
was probably LeBron in 07.
Yeah.
And he got swept. And I don't think that's what's going to happen here. He obviously
LeBron was 22. LeBron was like really a baby.
Yeah.
He was 22.
They didn't have half of that either.
Yeah, LeBron
was going against the dynasty in the Spurs. Like
San Antonio.
Tim Duncan kind of pat him on the top of the head, was like, "You'll be back, but not today."
Yeah, literally the middle of the Spurs dynasty. I mean, that was like prime Duncan and all that. But the other comment I wanted to make was, and I think I can ask you guys this, I think that we'll see after game one how Porzingis is feeling. But I think if they notice that he is even a little bit slower, let's say he's 85, 90%, and I don't think they can do this because you made a great point, and this is what made me think about it. I don't think they can do it with Kyrie because he's got Drew who fights through screens. But you better believe that they are going to be picking on Porzingis with Luka in the pick and roll. They're going to get that switch on Kristaps, and they're going to try and attack him. Because the other way you can get him is be physical. He's not a huge dude. I mean, height-wise he is, but you know, he's a little bigger version of Chet Holmgren. He's an older version of him, right?
Yeah, he's mature Chet Holmgren.
He's a mature Chet Holmgren, exactly. And so if you can either one, Luka loves to get people in foul trouble, right, and take him out of the game that way. But at the same time, by creating that contact, you're also just wearing him down a little bit. And he's not a 6'5" guard, 6'7" wing that can just kind of bounce right back and has perfect cardio. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys think that that's like going to be their game plan, but I think it fully depends on how he is looking after game one or during game one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think he's completely healthy.
I don't think so.
I think he's good to go, and I think he can go out. I don't think he's where what's the guy for the Knicks? OG Anunoby is that hurt. No. But I think he's hurt, and I think he's just been cleared by, you know how they say the doctors and the medicals, like they give you the clearance. I think he's that, but
I mean, it's been 5 weeks, Sean. It's been 5 weeks.
It has been a while. It has definitely been a good while for him to get rested and healthy, but I still think, especially with the magnitude of the finals and just the intensity, I'm really interested to see how his leg looks, because it's just when you're talking calves, like I think KD didn't he have a strained calf, and all of a sudden he goes out there and pops his Achilles, because now KD's game is a little bit more, he's moving around more maybe than Porzingis, but still, I think with him also, his biggest impact would be just defensively in terms of what he can do in terms of altering shots around the rim. Because, like I said, if you don't want Xavier Tillman out there, you don't want Al Horford out there for extended minutes. I mean, like I said, to be honest, I really only want Al Horford out there for screens and 3-point shots. Like I don't really want
3-point shot.
Much more than that. So, Boston to me has, everybody knows their road has been very easy. We get it. And a lot of it hasn't really been their fault because a lot of guys have gotten injured. So many would say this is like their truest test. In the last series, when I picked the Mavericks against the Timberwolves, it was not really anything about the Timberwolves. It was just the Mavericks had the better player and players like combo. And to me, like I said, Cat, I think he's a great player, but
I don't know about great. I'm gonna put him at
good player.
He's a good player.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
But as a number 2 option and just relying on him as a number 2 option is tough. So that's kind of where I was leaning with Dallas. And in this series, like, there's definitely not a massive, like, Luka's the best player. But like when you talk about the number 2, like Kyrie, Tatum, Brown, like they're gonna take Tatum, and then Brown. I take Kyrie. I take him because
I'd take Kyrie.
Oh, you take Kyrie over Jaylen Brown?
But
yeah.
I would, like, right now, because
I trust Kyrie more than both of the Celtics players.
Oh, okay. I'd take it easy now.
That goes without saying. I just think, especially if it's a tight game. But regardless of how you stack these players up, I do see how, like, the gap is not as big. I'm just talking about in terms of how you saw with, like, I mean, Anthony Edwards was a monster, but then like Cat and whoever else, like, there's a bigger gap. So to me, what I'm interested in seeing from the Celtics aspect is who is going to take the bull by the horns and in game one be like, we're going to go up, get 1-0 because we're at home. Tatum, Brown, we're going to have a dominant duo, like, performance, like Zoo, you just talking about Kyrie and LeBron. Like, I need Tatum and Brown to maybe go for 30 apiece and show, like, hey, we were here with Golden State, and guess what? With Golden State, we kind of, was feeling ourselves up 2-1, and then Tatum kind of, disappeared in the next couple games. There's no sense of that. Like, I want them to kind of make a statement, because I'm telling you now, if Dallas comes out and like how they did against Minnesota and pops them in the mouth, it's going to be a long series for Boston, because to me, it's all about a confidence thing with them. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say they're front runners, because they've just dominated the entire year. So it's not really a sense of front running. They just been dominant the entire year. And I know in the playoffs they had an easy road, but I mean, they did have 64 wins in the regular season. So they beat good teams during the regular season. So it's not like they just been front running. They're just a solid, like, organization. And like I said, especially their starting 5 is pretty ridiculous.
Really? Yeah.
I just want to see that step on your throat gene that I know Kyrie has demonstrated in the finals and that Luka has demonstrated throughout his career in the playoffs. I want to see that. Like, sometimes I think with Boston, and it's not because of their opponents, I just think their team as a whole, when the situations get kind of tight, it turns into okay, well, Tatum just needs to go ahead and take the game over, which most people would think that's the reason why, is because he's the best player. But I think they really need to key in on who's having the better game. So if it's Jalen in this game, let him dominate in the fourth. If it's Tatum in this game, let him dominate in the fourth. If it's Derek White going 4 or 5 from 3, and it's the fourth quarter, let him start getting some shots off. Like, you got too many good players to just allow specified roles to be what it is, and that needs to happen. Like, it's because everybody wants a storybook ending. Everybody wants the story that could write and say, well, Tatum went for 35 and he was 12 or whatever, and this is why he's MVP. Like, sometimes it doesn't always work out like that. But for me, I'm leaning Dallas because I learned my lesson in almost kind of the OKC series. I don't know who I picked in that series, but with Luka struggling, it was, and I'm not saying I kicked his back in and I was like, Luka doesn't have it anymore. But I was thinking to myself, like, when he kind of delivered and finished that series off, it's like, he's proving, he kind of laid the groundwork of, like, I'm the best player in this series. And then that's what kind of gave me a little bit of confidence to pick them in the next series against Minnesota. It's like, I'm the best player in this series. And Luka, speaking about, like, his stats against Boston, I don't know if you guys saw this, like, his last 2 games against Boston, 33, 18, and 13, 37, 12, and 11. So to me, that tells me that Boston has absolutely nobody that can completely guard him. They have people that can bother him for sure. I think Jaylen Brown can bother him. I think Drew could get some minutes bothering him. Derek White can get some minutes bothering him. Tatum, they have guys that can rotate on. I don't know who brought it up, but, like, if I'm Boston, I'm not putting Tatum nowhere near Brown because he'll get Tatum in foul trouble real quick. And if I want one guy that's going to get in foul trouble, I'd rather it be Brown or Holiday versus Tatum. So I think Luka, his ability to just play, make, and do what he do is, I don't think he's going to be impeded that way. And I also think he's going to rise to the occasion.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to come down. What I think it's going to come down to is, because to your point, B, Boston or Dallas's role players, I don't think, their team, I guess, is a little bit more deeper, but I think they're going to be more important. I think PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., not only offensively making threes and making lob, dunks or, dunks. Whatever, like little after, they double on Luka and they like make a little pop pass and they make like a free throw shot. Like, they need to be able to make those type of shots, but they have to bring it defensively with Brown and Tatum. Like, they can't have nights where they're just allowing them to do whatever, because I do think they have demonstrated in this playoffs that they can guard somewhat. Like, Derrick Jones Jr. to me has surprised me the most. Like, he has been a guy that's like, hey, I didn't even know he can really shoot like that, but he's shooting pretty well. He's active on defense. And I think Zoo might make a point, like, they're really good defensively. They're a good defensive team. Derek Lively, to me, is very mobile as a big, and being very honest, I didn't really like that pick when they first made it, because it's just like many people was thinking like they need more of a dynamic guard, but this is going to go into my X factor point. And I was watching game 4. I want to say it was game 4 against Minnesota, because that was when Dallas was at home. Jaden Hardy for the Mavericks. I got stamped by this because I didn't see it till like days later. But Jordan Clarkson, who, if you're watching the game, like, Jordan Clarkson's a better player, but they're kind of in that same height mold of a guy off the bench that can score.
Yeah, 6-man.
He was like, Jaden Harden's going to win them finals games. Do I believe that? No. But I do believe that Jaden Hardy is going to be an X factor in terms of just his overall skill set, because I think I brought up his overall skill set in terms of what he can do in the game. Because I brought up, like, what happened? I was like, what happened to Tim Hardaway? Like, why is he not getting as many minutes as I thought he was getting? Like, because he's a sniper. Like, he's a guy that
he can shoot it.
He's a guy that can get really hot from 3. So I was thinking, like, why is he not playing? And then, like, it kind of clicked when I saw game 4. It's like, well, Hardy is, I think, a little bit more of a complete player. Like, now his stats are a little skewed because he's coming off the bench. I saw he was shooting like 60 from 3 or whatever. It's like, that's not real numbers. Like, he's playing in spot duty. And he's like, I think 50-something% from the field. That's not repeatable. But he is the thing about him that I like is, we always talk about pedigree, at least I do. And he was a high major recruit coming out of high school. He was a top 5 recruit. He came out.
He was number 2. He was number 2.
Was he really?
He was a super high recruit. So the thing is, he was one of the guys that went pro. And then sometimes, when you're going pro, like when it was kind of new, when you're going to the G League or whatever, sometimes you get kind of lost in the shuffle because I think he's only a second-year guard. But you get lost in the shuffle, especially when you're sometimes a smaller player. And the thing about him is I don't think he's going to come to the final stage like, the moment's too big. I think he's going to look at this and embrace the challenge of, hey, I'm coming off the bench. I can slash, like I can get to the rim. I can make a pull-up, jump shot in a two-point range. I can make a three off a closeout. Like he can do a lot of he can do a lot of things that Tim Hardaway I don't think is in his game. Like Tim Hardaway can definitely shoot the three, and
he's just catch and shoot guy.
Dribble, but he's not a guy like, for instance, when Jaden Hardy, whenever it was in Game 4, like he had a shot fake and a dribble with his left hand. He had a two-handed dunk. Like that was an explosive play. And two, even though it was kind of like chill out, he kind of was having a little bit of a back and forth with Anthony Edwards, and that shows me like, hey, I think this guy has enough confidence to be like, hey, I don't care if it's Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, whoever on the other side, I'm going for mine. Because to me, in all sports, like you got to be the best of the best to be in like the NFL, NBA, whatever. But a lot of these guys were dudes in high school, and they still carry that confidence going into the NBA. I'm a believer of like there are stars and superstars, but the guys below that, it's all about who's going to give you opportunity to play. Because I think everybody below them can play. It's just about team fit, obviously, and
who you're playing with.
Is the coach going to give me who you're playing with, and who's going to give me the ability to play? Because I think everybody can get points. So to me, Jaden Hardy, I think, is going to be interesting to see how much run he actually gets in the finals. I don't know what their rotation is going to be, but I like him off the bench because he's another dynamic guard. And if he's having good moments, that gives more rest for Kyrie. That gives more rest for Luka.
Exactly.
And I like that for Dallas. And to me, another reason I'll close it on this, like why I'm picking Dallas is I think their team is a little bit more deeper on the bench, even though when it comes to the finals, it's more about the stars. Yeah. And two, I just trust Luka and Kyrie if these games get really tight in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
But I am, and I wrote this down, like, I don't think it's a indictment on Boston at all, because I think Boston to me is due. Like they just seem like a team that is due. They've been here long enough. They've been criticized. Like Tatum is on every blog or whatever talking about how he's not a top 5 guy and he's a top 8, top 10, whatever. He's been criticized for the longest. That's why I'm very interested in game 1. What is the mentality going to be?
Yep.
Like, are you going to come out and punch Luka and Kyrie in the face? Like figuratively, not like, for real, but like, are they going to come out and actually like fight? Because that's been the bugaboo about Boston. They get into these games and it's like they're just trying to fill it out, and nobody wants to step on each other's throat. Luka will step on your throat. Kyrie will step on your throat, and they are going to be ready to fight. So to me, for Boston, these games need to be game 6, game 7 at like attitude. That's what you need to have. Don't be like, well, we just got to split. No, you need to Boston. If I'm a Boston fan, 2-0. I don't want to hear nothing about no split. Because if they split, it's over.
Oh,
if they split, it's over.
Sometimes I just think the Celtics are a little too nice, man. They're just a little too nice. I mean, they got no killer on their team, not in real life, obviously, but there's no tenacity. And Zoo, I think you mentioned this last week. That's what I have. I mean, you beat the teams in front of you. That's totally fine. But if you're just breezing through, I mean, the Pacers gave them a little bit of hiccups there with some of those close games. But if you're just breezing through, man, and then you run into, to Sean's point, 2 absolute madmen of competitiveness in Luka and Kyrie, I haven't seen that out of Jason Tatum. I haven't seen him get fired up. I mean, the most fired up I seen one of those players get was when Jaylen Brown hit the game-tying shot. And I mean, that was right. Huge shot. But, and I think the other thing with the Celtics that concerns me a little bit is when they're not hot from 3.
Yeah.
That team gets tough.
They're relying
you know what the issue is, Zoo? They proved this against both the Thunder and the Timberwolves. I mean, we remember how easy Anthony Edwards was getting to the rim in his first 2 series. I mean, he was getting there at will. That's partially why he shot high, low 50 percentages from the field.
Yeah.
He was not able to get to the rim. Obviously, he did once in a while. Everyone remembers that insane dunk he had. But he had a hard time finishing around the rim against this Mavericks team. Yeah. And that is what the bread and butter of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown is when they can't hit a jump shot. And that happens more consistently than I think.
Tatum especially.
Yeah, Tatum relies on
he's got to pick it up.
He relies on
But my point is, Zoo, when he gets frustrated, he starts kind of going to that rim and he does that little finger roll on the right side. Everyone knows the one I'm talking about. He is not going to have that in his back pocket to just get his feet back under him in this series because of Gafford and Lively. So I think that's going to be the interesting thing. We're all talking about offenses here, and I know, Sean, you talked about their defense. But, I would say that the Mavericks' interior defense is better than their perimeter defense.
Interior, definitely interior.
By far.
Yeah.
So, but you have to remember, I'm fine. If I lose and they hit 22 threes in a game, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, there's not much you can do.
Games like that, right? So the Mavericks, I mean, they got to do something on that perimeter though, because they have the interior locked up.
That's why I think the series will go long.
It has to go. I think
it's going to go long because there's going to be, I think, series games where Boston will get hot.
Yeah, goes off.
Yeah, and it's just it's gonna, and then Mavericks are gonna play their game. But what are you gonna say?
Yeah, because one thing we saw what the Dallas Mavericks defense do against the Minnesota Timberwolves is, as you say, the paint. We're going to control the paint, and we're going to let the threes. And then you had those games where Jaden McDaniels goes off, hits a bunch of threes. Mike Conley hits a bunch of threes. Ant hits a bunch of threes. Cat hits a bunch of threes. That's what I get. Yeah, this is going to be easily a 6 or 7 game series just based on the variability on the 3-point shot. Because I can see the Celtics one game just go off and absolutely murder the Dallas Mavericks and be like, oh, they just blew them out by 25 points.
Well, and then you hammer the Mavs the next game.
Exactly. Because the 3-point shot goes off. And as you mentioned, the interior defense is the biggest strength. Because if you saw, as you mentioned, Ant-Man, he plays against that Phoenix Swiss cheese defense at Yusuf Nurkic. Swiss cheese, man. Very easy to score. Yeah. He goes against the Denver Nuggets. I love Jokic, but he is not a rim protector. Nope. Swiss cheese in the paint, man. Swiss cheese in the paint. They got no rim protection. And then you got this Dallas team with 2 of them. At 48 minutes, they have one of these guys in Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively. That's the
Kleber too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's the beauty of this team. That you got a guy that can just swap in and out with these rim protectors. Yeah. So I'm like, the defensive paint, the Dallas Mavericks be dominating that, but the perimeter, as you said, if they hit those 3-point shots to the perimeter, they just move the ball on the perimeter, they're going to get good looks. They're going to get good looks.
This is the Target version of Anthony Davis and JaVale McGee, man. That's what this is, man. The Target version. They're not Walmart, Derek Lively did shoot 100%.
Yeah, Derek Lively, I got to say this again. He looking like a young Tyson Chandler. And when he hits his prime, when he physically gets stronger, because right now out there, he look kind of skinny still. But when he physically develops, this guy is going to be a.
And if he adds a 3-point shot,
just
not even
if he has a jump shot. He just needs a mid-range game, and he could start. He's not Anthony Davis, but that is exactly what Anthony Davis did in college. I mean, he had no offensive game coming out of college, really.
Yeah, I remember
he adjusted.
Derek Lively from high school going into college. He was a top 5 guy. He was an elite prospect. And in college, obviously, I think he got injured. His draft stock went down a little, and obviously, Mavs tanked. Best move ever, tanking. Got the number 10 pick.
Less than $1 million.
I gotta say it. Tanking might get this team a championship. So the tanking works, man. Especially when you can lose your pick, tanking works. So
even if it's as egregious as that, Zoo. It was.
I remember Bulls and Mavericks playing the game. They just rest their entire team. Bulls are fighting for the same freaking pick. So that was a genius move by the Dallas Mavericks. So you gotta do what you gotta do. And Derek Lively, as you said, this guy is an absolute monster in the paint. Man, the paint. But, man, offensively, though, it's a very hit or miss with the Dallas Mavericks. It's we know what they're going to run. Watching the Mavericks so many times, it's no surprise what they're going to run.
No.
There's no surprise. You got Luka taking his turn. When he goes off the court, then it's Kyrie's time to take the turn and try to create double teams and pass to the open shooters or pass to the guys in the paint for a lob dunk. It's a very simple offense. So the Boston Celtics, if they're able to disrupt the passing, that's the thing. If they get in the passing lanes, anticipate the lobs. So maybe Kristaps out there.
Eric White's great at that.
Yeah, exactly. Anticipate the double teams and helping off the double teams. If they could get into the passing lanes, they could definitely dominate the Dallas Mavericks because everybody knows what Dallas is running. Everybody knows. So Jason Kidd, I feel like he has to be more creative, somehow make these passes maybe a little easier. So it'll be a huge coaching battle right now with
both of these offenses. Extremely simple. Extremely simple, a lot of ISO ball and a lot of take your turn, my turn. And so that's why I think this is probably the most interesting finals matchup in a long time. And for me at least, I find it to be one of the most
because it's better. It's storylines that are, and I also think too. This is no shade against Jokic, but it's for me, I'm picking the Mavericks. I just think that they got the killers, but it's Luka. If he were to get this championship, it then turns the shifted to him potentially being the best player
in the world.
Like Luka, to me, even though he's not like Anthony Edwards above the rim, like he's just more of a dynamic personality because you see a little bit, like he has a little bit of the I'm gonna let you know. Yeah, he has that alpha gene of hey, I'm gonna let you know that I'm kicking your ass. Like he just has that gene. So
and then he'll do it.
Like,
he tells you, and then he does it.
Back it up. Yeah. So that is what's interesting. And like I said, I don't think either way, whoever wins is like, Tatum and Brown, that'll be nice because even though I'm not really a big fan of like Boston as a city or franchise, but like I do like Tatum and Brown a lot and they're easy to root for. So I wouldn't be disappointed with them winning. But just to, I guess, verify everybody's picks, we're all going with Dallas. I said 6.
Yes,
what did you say, Zoo?
I'm going 7.
Same.
7. And
I'm going 7.
So even though we love Tatum and Brown, we think, and I think Zoo, you might have mentioned, or people, whoever. I do think with Boston, they built this team to where they have a little bit of runway, but we do got to remember Tatum is getting that massive contract next year. So I think it's this year and next year, and then after that, they're going to have some bills due. And I think
that window is closed.
Oh, that luxury tax, man! That luxury tax is going to be crazy.
Yeah, that luxury tax is going to be something serious. So I think even if they were to somehow not get it done this year, they definitely have a runway next year. But I'm always of the belief if you're in the game, figure out how to win it. Because it's not always guaranteed that you're
guaranteed to come back.
There's no guarantees. Now in the East, we know it's weak, but like I keep saying, man, I think next year the East might surprise us with how, like I said, nobody saw Indiana this year, even though injuries happen. Like you got New York, you got Atlanta, you got a lot of teams that are like young and they got beat up a little bit, and it's like, we're gonna see. But that's it for the podcast today. Like I said, NBA Finals are here. We are a couple of weeks from the dreaded down period of sports time, even though Olympics are coming up, so we may have a little bit of stuff on that. But make sure you guys follow us on Tyson Talks _ on Instagram, Control Knows on YouTube. I'm putting up shorts, daily content. Like I said, it's going to be a slower time, but I'm always going to have something I can put up there. Apple, Spotify. Make sure you follow us on those platforms. Give us a 5-star and then review it so we can get to the algorithms. And for me, Zoo, and P-Bush, we are out.